Well, this is Betting Weekly Extra Time Champions League edition, an autumn campaign in Europe's premier club competition, almost tangible for those teams involved in the playoffs, the final round of qualifiers before we know which clubs will go into the draw on the 31st of August for the group stages. Takes place over the next couple of evenings, Tuesday and Wednesday. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, two of the very best around to talk you through the midweek card across Europe. Steve Wyss and RJ are back, I would say by popular demand, but 0-6 last week, chaps. We got a little bit of stick on social media. You're lucky that you're not the challengers on the European show. Of course, Steve's our senior handicapper, but RJ, you're next in the firing line or shortly when it comes to the European show. But in fairness, you have been very good over the last 18 months or so. So we'll let you off. Form is temporary. Class is permanent, as they say. But Steve, it just goes to highlight, and we talked about it last week, we're not making excuses. These early rounds of Champions League qualifiers with teams with little form and little European form, it is difficult.
It certainly is, Dan. Hello, hope you're doing well. RJ, good to see you. Last week, I've got to be honest, that was the poorest, one of the poorest Bet Rivers shows I've been involved in terms of results. I was racking my brains. I think I did 38 rounds in the Ligue 1 show last year, and not once did I go 0-3. So it was a horrible feeling. I thought we were really unlucky in the Rangers game not to get another goal in that second half. But to be honest, I read the Molde KI match completely wrong. And also, I will hold my hands up a little bit. I underestimated AEK Athens. So it can happen, though. I really do think that it's the hardest competition to actually get overall profit in over the season, the UEFA Champions League, especially when you've got often the matchups is quite close with teams. Apart from sometimes in the group stages, you get some serious mismatches. But I was gutted, obviously disappointing for the viewers, the listeners. And yeah, I can only apologize, really. It's not what we want. It wasn't good enough, but you're only as good as your last bet, and you're also only as good as your next bet. So we kick on forwards, and hopefully we get try and right the wrongs of last week on this show.
Look, RJ, everyone's got to be judged on a significant period of time. Small sample sizes for bettors are the worst thing. Doesn't matter what you sport, what you gamble on, what you invest in. Knee-jerk reactions are never good one way or the other. I thought you were unlucky with your Copenhagen play because your reasoning was right. All the goals did come when teams needed them, but unfortunately it was extra time rather than the 90. But it is difficult, isn't it, RJ? There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, it's as you stated, this is one of the more difficult competitions to handicap. It's typically why it's something I strive myself in using data to leverage my selections versus my gut or my sense. I know others have different approaches, and that's totally fine. But nonetheless, it happens. It's a reason why when you wager, you want to have consistent staking plans so you can control these ebbs and flows that you get as a bettor. And we could sit here and explain or try to look at the matches and see why things didn't work our way, but that's just sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. And we're going to look forward at this week and hopefully get on track and win some bets here for you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Just one other thought to you both, RJ, first. I mean, if we had a lot more data when it comes to Champions League qualifiers, look, we've got 3 rounds and then the playoff, and then we don't look at these things again for another year. If they continue to play teams of similar ability in qualifiers for a whole season, we'd have a much better idea about how we can approach these games. This is the problem, isn't it? Sometimes, I reference in this show a little later, so, well, certain teams haven't won a qualifier away from home in 10 years. And you think, well, what is that form worth? Should we look to more domestic form? We're sort of 5 matches into the Polish league at the moment. It's difficult, isn't it, sometimes, because we just haven't got the wealth of numbers that we usually have when it comes to just a regular league season.
Yeah, I look at domestic numbers, Dan. Typically, I know there's UEFA coefficients you can look at, so it ranks league quality versus other European leagues, so you can kind of use that as a gauge. But at this point in the stage, right, a lot of teams are either a third to a halfway through their domestic season. Some teams in this stage are just starting up their domestic season, so you got a slew of different variations in terms of form, in terms of where teams are, in terms of like looking at transfers, teams have changed quite a bit since their last season as well. So there's that to consider. But you really just have to look at, in my opinion, you have to target the teams that show up consistently, right? Especially when you're looking at goals. I don't typically look at unders, and I after last week, I was like, should I start looking at unders? And I was like, well, you can, but as Steve knows well, right? We talked about this a couple of shows ago. Sometimes the matches that look like they'll be just snooze fests end up throwing out 2, 3, 4 goals, and you wonder why. It leaves you scratching your head. But at this competition, you have to sort of stick with the teams that have been here consistently and that produce when they're at this stage.
And just one more on strategy, Steve, to you, really. I mean, look, this is the first leg of 2, and RJ is saying, look, maybe we look at unders. Will teams be more cautious in those first legs, or is the fact that the group stages are almost tangible, you know, just touch out and feel it, then teams might go for it a little bit more? And no away goals these days, obviously. That's trying to you know, the design of which to make teams play with a bit of freedom. I'm not quite sure that's happened or not.
I think you've got to be a bit adaptable in this stage of the Champions League qualifying. It is difficult, like I said. You know, there'll be a lot of people watching who'll be saying, well, just don't bet on it then. And I'd agree with that to some extent. You're probably going to get more winners from like the Norwegian second division or something. But why are we doing these shows? Because they are incredibly popular for people to bet on. You get a lot of liquidity in these markets. So absolutely anyone watching can bet on these games, whether you're a big roller or, you know, you just put in a few pence on. It's as simple as that. They're really popular, but we just got to be adaptable as bettors, analysing it. You know, we go in depth, looking at different angles and things like that. And, you know, I'm confident we can rebound. You know, last week's show was 0-6, and you know, I actually thought about it, Dan. At one point, it felt like an evening match in, say, you know, League One in England, where the away team are going somewhere like Plymouth and get beat 6 or 7-0, and occasionally the clubs actually refund the ticket holders or even the travel money. I thought about saying, you know, wire me over, you're losing tickets, and then I thought it's going to cost me too much.
Hang on, yeah,
it's going to cost me too much. But you know what I mean. But I'm absolutely over the court. You've got to be long term over the whole season as well, and we will be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, if people are asking for losing tickets to be paid, then you know you guys want some percentage of winners because there's been plenty of them over the last 18 months or so. Right, let's get some selections. Good strategy chat. 5 games to look at. Here we've got 5 selections, 3 from Steve, 2 from RJ. Going to kick off with an interesting one on Tuesday. It's Rangers-PSV. They're all 3 p.m. Eastern times, incidentally, Tuesday and Wednesday. They've standardized the playoffs for us. Rangers plus 160, PSV plus 150. Slight favourites, the Eredivisie side, who started the season really well. They played each other last year, Steve. So there is some head-to-head form and some significant head-to-head form because it's exactly the same stage of the season. But you look at the PSV side and the Rangers side to a lesser extent, and PSV certainly are a different team in terms of personnel. What's your take on this one?
Well, I think the one, certainly I felt I was very unlucky with the Servette Rangers bet last week. 1-1 after 53 minutes, and it somehow ended that way. I think it was the right read that I had on the game, over 2.75 goals. So I'm going to stick with the same bet again, over 2.75 and minus 114. You know, all the Rangers matches in Europe so far have been pretty open this season, and PSV games have been wild, both domestically and in Europe. But you'd expect that from a Dutch team. That Eredivisie, in my opinion, no one defends in it at all. And it is really, you know, it promotes good attacking football. Peter Bosz is in charge now of PSV. I think Will White mentioned this on the first preview show we did. And I've seen plenty of Peter Bosz in France and Netherlands down the years, and his teams play wide open football. He goes for it. And at times he's found tactically wanting, to be honest. But from a betting perspective, we don't mind that because it's going to lead to plenty of chances and I think plenty of goals. We know what Ibrox is like on a, you know, European night. The atmosphere is going to be quite raucous, isn't it? And they'll really get behind their team. The fixture last season ended 2-2, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ended something similar again. I think Rangers are going to be more attack-minded at home than if the first leg was in at PSV. I think they would be more inclined to sit back, and it might be a more tighter game potentially. But at home, I think they'll feel like they perhaps need to take an advantage back with them, or it's the first leg they can swing at, and no away goals helps them with a bit more of a safety net in that respect as well. There's plenty of decent players on both sides. Luke de Jong keeps racking up with the goals, doesn't he, for PSV? A real older statesman. He must be knocking on the door of about 40 now, but I don't actually know how old he is, but he's, that sort of experience is really important at this stage of the tournament. I certainly think both teams score, but you're not going to get rich back in that bet. I think it was like minus 150 or something, or even shorter. Mm-hmm. So I certainly like over 2.75 goals. I actually thought this goal line would be 3, and it may well be by kickoff. So yeah, minus 167 is both teams to score. So I'm not interested in that. So just a straightforward over 2.75 goals, again down at minus 114. I think it'll cash this week.
Yeah, it looks good. Eredivisie, so far this season, only a couple of games in, he's averaging 3.77 goals per game. Averaged over 3 last season. This is standard for Dutch football. Cyril Dessers has got 3 in his last 2 against PSV, former final striker, scored a lot of goals in finals run to the Conference League final the other season. Now plays at Rangers, of course. Let's move on to the game on Tuesday that we're going to feature. RJ's got a selection for us in this one. This is Rakow, the Polish champions, Copenhagen. The Danish title holders who have started the season, RJ, really well. Has been a little bit of market movement as well. I've scribbled on Rakow plus 132, Copenhagen plus 195, but Copenhagen are shorter now. And again, we could be seeing goals in this one, RJ.
Yeah, that's the hope here, Dan. Looking at Rakow versus FC Copenhagen, it's Tuesday at 3 p.m. Rakow have been in tremendous form, only losing once at home in their last 25 matches. Hard to believe, and that loss came on May 14th. Sorry, they are the strongest side at home in Poland at the moment. They've scored 41 goals at home since last season domestically in 17 matches. Rakow have taken down Flora of Estonia. They've taken down Karabakh of Azerbaijan and Aris of Cyprus so far to get to this point. They scored at least 2 goals in their last 5 home matches. And even if they were to come up short here against Copenhagen, they've already secured the spot in the Europa League if they were to fail here, which I think you could probably say they may. But nonetheless, Rakow have yet to lose a home game in European football. 7 wins, 2 draws. Over the weekend, they played domestically. They didn't start Fabian Piasecki, one of their top strikers. Over this past weekend, he was on the bench. Obviously, their sights are ahead at this match, which is good to see when you're targeting a team with goals. They're resting their talent. They're focused on this match. Somebody who scored twice in the last few rounds. Copenhagen, we know what we're going to get out of them. They're a very strong side. They've been here the past few years. I'm not going to dive into them too much here, other than they have gone on the score sheet. They've scored 2+ goals in their last 7 road matches, and they've only kept a clean sheet in just 3 out of those 7 road matches. So, again, not overthinking things, looking at the stats, looking at what one would expect here. And I think both teams to score at minus 122 is a pretty generous number. I think it's fair. And I think Rakow, I don't really have too many doubts of them getting on the board. It's how they perform against Copenhagen. What kind of match will this turn out to be? Could it be, like a Slavia Prague round where Copenhagen, they had a 0-0 draw? They had the chances, but I expect Rakow. I expect both sides to get on the board here at minus 122.
Minus 122 is a selection. Both teams to score. Yeah, certainly the Polish side. I bet a lot in the Polish top division last season, and it was a difficult league for me. I lost money on it overall. Yeah. There was one side that matched their XG. Most of them didn't, and the one side was Rakow, who won the title, who we're talking about here, and they were fairly consistent.
I'll just add, Dan, I believe I was surprised to see the price on FC Copenhagen here. Plus 195.
Well, they've come in a little bit. I think they're plus 180 now.
Because I've watched a bit of Rakow. I've got to be honest with you. I don't actually rate them that much. I'd be surprised if FC Copenhagen were at home in the first leg this week. I would have been all over them like German measles. But because they're on the road, it's a little bit more difficult. And I think I agree with RJ's angle of both teams scoring. Yes, Rakow, really their big strength is offensive. So, but I'm surprised that they're actually the favourite for the first leg. I don't think they're that good a team.
Plus 155 Rakow and Copenhagen plus 180. I put the running odds together last night. So and it's the only money line that's moved of the 6 matches, or certainly the 5 that we're talking about. I've not really looked at Antwerp, AK Athens, but it's the only money line that's moved, and it's moved against Rakow in Copenhagen's favour. So
that is surprising. It's Rakow. I said Rakow. Sorry about that. I missed the. I must have stepped away when you mentioned that.
It is Rakow. Rakow Częstochowa. There you go. Put that one down.
And to that point, not to slow this down, but to that point, right? We're at the mercy of the bookmakers here. They're in the same. I mean, the odds makers. They're in the same sort of predicament we are, where you're throwing out odds, and they have a lot more advanced and sophisticated systems than most of us. But there's some value to be had if you look closely, as Steve mentioned here.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. We talked about it on one of our previous shows. It's difficult for us. It's difficult for them. Let's move on to Wednesday games. We've got 3 matches on Wednesday to look at. Sporting Braga against Panathinaikos. We're going to look at first and foremost here. Sporting Braga are minus 141. I know we generally don't sort of dip to the minus 140s, but I think there's worse bets to have if you're a favourite backer. Panathinaikos plus 410, draw plus 245. Braga a little bit under the radar. Draw's been kind to them, I guess, Steve, with our Serbian pals in the previous round, that they brushed aside, but they brushed aside them very easily, didn't they?
Yes, my pick for this game is going to be Braga minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap at minus 104, which basically means as long as they win the game, we will get some sort of profit. If it's by 1 goal, it'll be a half winner, and if they win by 2 goals or more, it will be a full winner. And I've got a feeling there'll be definitely some people out there on Twitter who will be gunning for me to lose this bet, because I had a bit of a last week I tweeted something out about how I thought Marseille getting knocked out by Panathinaikos was quite an embarrassing result for OM, which I thought was fair comment, really. It is. But it seems there's a few Greeks out there, maybe they're very well supported side, who believe I was underestimating Panathinaikos. Well managed, tactically astute, and not much difference between the two teams. But I completely disagree. Having watched that second leg, I thought Marseille battered them, really. Expected goals of 3.5. And it took a last-minute penalty, a controversial penalty as well, along with 2 disallowed Marseille goals to basically take it to extra time. And then Panathinaikos won on penalties. I really think normally Marseille would win that second leg comfortably 3 or even 4-0 on most occasions. And let's not forget the first leg in Greece, Marseille also gift them a red card with about 30 minutes left, and that completely changed the game. So I don't want to disrespect Panathinaikos. I don't want to disrespect the Greek league.
They're going to come for you again, Steve, but go on, continue.
The Greek league is improving. But from what I saw with Panathinaikos, I think they're not at the same level of, say, these teams like Marseille and Braga. Now, I actually think Braga, if it was Marseille, I'd make them the favourites to go through against them as well. I think Braga are a very good side. They've got a lot of goals in them, as they showed in the last round. Okay, it was a very soft matchup, like you said, but they've backed it up with a 4-2 win against Chaves in the Portuguese league. And, they've got guys like Ricardo Horta, his quality on the ball. Simon Banza has been going very well there. I think they are a very, very good technical side, and I would be shocked if they don't take an advantage with them to Greece. And they'll know they need to take an advantage there because it is a tough place to go. So I think at very worst, Braga get themselves a 1-goal win, but I'm expecting them to win with a little bit to spare, to be honest. I actually looked at the team total over 2.5 goals at plus 310. If you're after a bit of pizza money on that or something, because I really think they're in great form to start the season off with. I believe they're facing a team who there is, for me, a golfing class. So, yeah, I really hope I get this one right, Dan, because the knives will be out for me.
Well, even if you get it right, they're going to come for you.
I know, I know, but that's the nature of the beast.
You're back against the Greeks. Just
I know.
Beware.
I know.
I don't think they're a good side. I saw them beat Dnipro on. They played in Slovakia because Dnipro can't play in Ukraine, obviously, and they were workmen. Like, I mean, Filip Juricic, who they signed from Sampdoria, he's a quality player, but Samp went down last season.
Can I clip
not
that
forget
when
that.
you say when you say that you don't think they're a good side?
No.
You can join my boat.
Oh boy.
Come on, RJ, we need some backup here.
That's it.
Maccabi Haifa-Young Boys is the next that we're going to talk about. And RJ's got a selection for us here. Maccabi Haifa plus 123. Young Boys, look, they're plus 185. The draw plus 270. This is Young Boys' first European game, which means they come in because they've got a better coefficient, I presume, than others. So they just come in at the playoff round. I don't know if that makes any difference at all, RJ, because, we've seen teams, start at the first qualifying round and just build up. If nothing else, it's just the rhythm of traveling across the continent and just getting into that midweek weekend situation that you've got to have. I mean, would it make any sort of difference to tip this in Maccabi Haifa's favor? I know you've not gone on the money line here, but it's just an interesting aside that Young Boys are playing their first European game.
Yeah, the distance that they travel obviously has a lot to do with, I think, the lines, especially Israel to Switzerland. I'm not sure. I didn't do the distance calculation, but I know it's not very close.
No, it's not a train journey.
And certainly Maccabi Haifa at this point, I mean, you look at their home matches, they put up 2, 3, 4 goals against pretty strong sides, but they very, very weak defensively. They secured a spot against Hamrun of Malta, the Spartans, as they call them, Sheriff Tiraspol from Moldova, and Slovan Bratislava from Slovakia to get here. And, you look at the results. They very rarely keep a clean sheet, even against these weak sides like Hamrun of Malta. They're decent domestically, but they're really not a great side. They're full of, no offense, but, upper 30, younger 40 Brazilian talent that, played in Serie B and now are playing in Malta. So, I mean, the fact that they're able to concede consistently against some of these weak sides was why I targeted this play, essentially. Young Boys are unbeaten up until this point. They've only had 4 games domestically. They won 2. They drew 2. They had a cup win over the weekend. They won 5-0 against a very lower division Swedish team, a Swiss team. And this just simply looks to be an all-action affair, right? As I stated, over their last 25 matches, Maccabi Haifa have kept a clean sheet in just 20% of those. So 1 out of 5, they've kept a clean sheet. And against, as I stated, much weaker opponents. Young Boys have not failed to score on the road, and they have kept a clean sheet in just 29% of their last 25 road matches. They're just, at 2.5 goals here at minus 129. This is another match I really don't want to overthink. I think both these sides, in a way, look at this. If Young Boys don't put up a goal, right, they go back home. They're feeling pretty good about this. But I think the home side, Maccabi Haifa, know that they need to put up some goals, because when they travel, number one, the distance has a lot to do with it. And then, this Young Boys side at home is very dominant. So it opens up the match, in my opinion, to an action-packed game, and hopefully we see a couple goals in the first half here.
I'm sure there's a gag somewhere. It's been done a million times about Young Boys in clean sheets, but this is a professional show, so we won't go there. One more selection, and it comes from Steve, nodding like you've both done it before. Shut up, Dan, move on. Molde against Galatasaray. This is Wednesday as well. You mentioned Molde against Klaksvik earlier on in the show. I thought that the first 10 or 15 minutes I watched the game, Molde were brilliant, and then they just got the first goal. They stepped back, and then from there on in, I just thought, they I don't want to say they struggled, but they weren't necessarily in control of the game here. I'd say Galatasaray, for me, and thankfully I'm not putting my tipping record on the line. You two are. I think at plus 138 are probably a bet. Molde plus 190. How do you see it, Steve?
Well, first, I just want to say I think that is a really good bet from RJ in the Maccabi Haifa match. That was going to be my third pick, over 2.5 in that. I was going to add another unit to it. But I didn't want to double stake on this show. I thought we'd go something different here. And this is what I call a feel bet. I'm going over 2.75 goals at plus 100. And I say feel bet because I think there'll be quite a lot of people watching, maybe even you two here, scratching your head a little bit because you look at the stats, the results of these two teams in the build-up, and it might not be a strong advocate for overs because I think you mentioned on the itinerary sheet we've got here, Galatasaray do have a lot of clean sheets, but I am the sort of bettor. I combine quite a lot of different things. I'm not predominantly stats-based. I'm not predominantly model-based. I combine quite a lot of sort of football knowledge that I've got, tactics and sort of situations, the mental side of the game. And I believe that this match will be a shootout. I think it's got the ingredients to be an end-to-end sort of contest. If the ingredients are combined, sort of stirred in the pot properly and baked at the right temperature, we could get a really good outcome. And, Molde, it's interesting. In all 4 matches they've played in the Champions League this season, they've been a heavy favourite. Minus 147, minus 500, minus 141, minus 435. In fact, all season, domestically as well included, they have only been an underdog in 3 matches, which is remarkable. They're not used to being an underdog, and I think it's going to suit them really well, actually. The last time they were an underdog, they drew against Buda Glimt up domestically, and it was a 2-2 draw. Most teams sit back against them. They don't really like that. But Galatasaray won't. I think they'll come here and they'll be more on the front foot. They'll be expected to sort of make the running a little bit so Molde can pick them off. Galatasaray's 2 away games in Europe, I've watched them both. 2-2 draw against Zalgiris and then a 3-0 win against Ljubljana. Looked good in both games. Could have perhaps scored more goals. I think we can ignore the second legs at home because they're just controlling then the match situation. So I think really it's going to actually suit both teams a little bit because I don't think either's going to be particularly on the back foot. It could be quite a balanced game. There'll be times when one team's pushing forward, but then the other can catch them out on the break and vice versa. Over the 2 legs, I agree with you, Dan. I think it's fairly difficult to make a case for Molde. I'd love to see them go through. I'm a Norwegian football fan, and it'd be great to see one of their teams in the group stage. But it's a tough ask for them, and I think for that reason as well, they know they're going to probably have to go for it in the first leg. Going to Turkey to turn around a deficit or getting a draw is going to be really hard. So again, I think they might feel they have to push more. They should get more chances. So I like the goals over 2.75. It is quite a bit of a feel bet. There'll be quite a few watching, like I say, who'll be looking at the stats and thinking that looks more like an under to me. But I'm looking outside the box here, the footballing aspect reasons, and liking the goals.
I like the ingredients. I like the man versus food versus goals, and it's goals that will win, hopefully.
I was going to say, Steve the baker there. We got some temperature. We got a card.
Yeah,
it almost do. I like your analogy, Steve. I was thinking of who did Steve remind you of? It was almost like the Rain Man, where you just went and you just started just spewing off your instincts there. I like that because you know what? Sometimes that's the way it plays out, especially at this competition. And
the thing is, RJ, I know you are quite a big stats man. I mean, I know someone like you might look at this game and probably you'd be like, you wouldn't be maybe taking the under, but you'd be looking and thinking, probably just avoid that game. You're right. Am I right in saying, yeah?
Fair. I mean, it's fair. There's a few matches like that match I looked at, and I didn't really dive into it too deeply, right? But I mean, you look at the form. They got Icardi. Galatasaray has Icardi, right? Who put 2 goals in over the weekend, and they certainly have the goal scoring talent. Both sides do, and Molde, let's face it, after the leg 1 against Klaksvik, they're not going to take this first leg lightly. I don't think, right? They're going to have that in the back of their minds. They know they're going to have to show up and against obviously a much stronger side here. So I like your thoughts, and I can see it happening.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about Molde.
Suspension. I just need to talk. Lucas Torreira is suspended for Galatasaray. Big player for them last season. He actually missed the first 2 qualifying matches anyway. Former Arsenal man, defensive midfielder. That should help goals in this game for Molde.
So interesting thoughts there on the Molde game. We like over 2.75 goals on the Asian goal line at even money. That is Steve's selection. We've covered 5 of the 6. RJ, just remind us of your 2 picks, and then we'll get the best of the 2. What's your 2 picks for the Champions League qualifiers?
Yeah, first match, Rakow versus FC Copenhagen. Both teams to score at -122. And the second match is Maccabi Haifa versus Young Boys over 2.5 goals at -129.
Steve, your 3?
Yeah, so Rangers against PSV Eindhoven over 2.75 goals at -114. Molde against Galatasaray, the same bet over 2.75 goals at +100. And then Braga against Panathinaikos. Braga on the -0.75 Asian handicap at -108.
Best bets, RJ. Best bet of the week.
Maccabi Haifa versus Young Boys over 2.5. That'll be my best bet.
Yeah, I like that one, Steve.
Braga -0.75. Definitely.
Okay, well, the Greeks are coming for you, Steve. I think RJ, you somehow managed to offend the Maltese as well. So you've got trouble. You've got trouble.
We got trouble away.
You've got trouble coming
Dan,
this
there's
way.
a reason I avoided the AEK Athens match this week as well, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Look, well, we went 0-6, all of us, last week on the show. We are confident we will get you back into profit over the course of this week, or at least this week, with plus money in the bag. That wraps it up for Betting Weekly Extra Time Champions League edition. A reminder: 3 games on Tuesday, 3 games on Wednesday. They're all 3 p.m. Eastern. Plenty of markets on the Bet Rivers website and the app, and of course in play when the games kick off. That is your lot from myself, Dan Roebuck. Many thanks to Steve and RJ. From all of us, it is goodbye.